Hey everyone, so today we got Jaclyn here on the call for the interview, and today we just want to get to know Jaclyn and who she is and why she started in this industry and why she wants to help people achieve the goals that they want to achieve. So Jaclyn, tell us who you are, tell us why you got into this industry, and tell us why you want to help people in the long term.
Yeah, for sure. So, guys, my name's Jaclyn. I have my own business called JS Strength and Conditioning, and I started that about 5 years ago this fall. So, when I was young, when I was in elementary school, I struggled with an eating disorder. One of my friends came up to me and like made a comment about my weight, and ever since that day, it kind of snowballed. So, when I was in grade six, I met this girl and her mom was like obsessed with fitness. She was obsessed with working out, obsessed with eating healthy. And I started to pick up her habits. And when she made a comment about my weight, I started to limit my eating. I started to restrict calories. I started developing an eating disorder. I started to develop body image issues. And from then up until high school, it kind of snowballed. And by the time I got to high school, I had like a full blown eating disorder. I was anorexic and I had dropped like a good 20 to 30 pounds. At the time, I was competing in jump rope as well. So I was training like, I would say like 6 to 10 hours a week. I was barely eating like 1,000 calories. So you can only imagine what it was doing to my body. My mom struggled with an eating disorder as well. So she started picking up the signs and she approached me and said like we have to get help. So I was almost at the point where I had to get hospitalized, but thankfully like she sat me down and said let's go see a psychiatrist, let's go see a nutritionist. So I had recovered. I saw a nutritionist, saw a psychiatrist, gained all the weight back, but I still had and was showing signs of an eating disorder. So I got to a healthy place, but by the time I got to university, I kind of snowballed again. So instead of developing anorexia again, I developed what's called orthorexia. So it's like an obsession with eating clean, eating healthy. And it affected a lot of things. It affected social events. It affected my work. It affected like the decision for me to hang out with certain people. So I would say for a good like 10 years, I had struggled with some kind of eating disorder for that entire time. And it wasn't until 2015 where I decided, like it's time to put this to an end. And I had been following the paleo diet. So I found CrossFit back in 2013 while I was dealing with this eating disorder. And that kind of like fed the fire a little bit with those eating habits. And then I found the macro-based approach. So 2015 was when I found out about like flexible dieting. Back then, that's what it was called. And once I started like the flexible dieting approach and tracking my macros, I finally got over that obsession with food, like clean eating and not being able to enjoy the foods that I enjoy without the fear of gaining weight. So I hired my first nutrition coach and she showed me the ropes. She showed me how to track my macros. And I remember like eating rice for the first time was a huge breakthrough for me. Eating ice cream for the first time was a huge breakthrough for me. Like even my mom was looking at me the night I pulled ice cream out of the freezer. She's like, you haven't eaten this in like God knows how long, because I had such a fear of eating those foods. So it really opened up my eyes to like freedom with food. It completely changed my relationship with food. And that was a huge breakthrough for me. So once I started gaining back some weight because even at that point I was pretty thin. I was sitting around 113 pounds and I wanted to be strong. I wanted to gain muscle, but I was afraid to eat food. I was so afraid to go past like 1,500 calories. So my coach actually helped me gain weight. She helped me gain mass. And I gained about 15 pounds I was about like a year and a half. And it was a struggle, right? Because when you gain weight, it's not just going to be full muscle, right? You're going to experience a little bit of fat gain. It's all part of the process though. And that was also a huge breakthrough for me to be able to just, with the past that I had, put that out of my mind and just remind myself, this is part of the process. And here I am now, like 130 pounds compared to where I was like 15, 20 pounds ago. I feel great. I'm the strongest I've ever been. And that was like, that's my story. That's the whole reason why I got into the nutrition coaching space. So I would say about like 6 to 8 months after I hired my coach, I was like, I want to help people do this. Like, I want to help people um, break up with fad dieting and show them that like the macro based approach is the way to go, because there's flexibility, it's not restrictive. And yeah, that's the whole reason why I got into this space.
That's awesome. That's like your story can relate to a lot of people, because I bet a lot of people have gone through that, and I actually appreciate you being honest with that. That's awesome. Thank you so much. Going on to what you were talking about, how you had nutrition coaches and going on through there, is that the kind of step that you want to take? You want to help people that have dealt with eating disorders, or are you kind of going towards just and helping anyone with any goal that they have? Like, what's your kind of niche of clientele?
Yeah, so I would say like my niche is I work with both men and women, but those that have been stuck in this fad dieting mindset, right? So I'm trying to teach them like the macro based approach, to let them know like you can be flexible, you can enjoy the foods you love while still technically dieting, and just creating a healthy relationship with food. So I do mostly work with women, but I do work with a lot of men as well. And I work with weightlifters because I compete in weightlifting. I work with a couple weightlifters who are looking to cut down for their meets. So I feel like I work with a variety of people. And a few of my clients are actually some that do struggle with eating disorders, because I've gone through it. I'm able to kind of coach them through it as well. And it's definitely easy when you can relate to them. So I would say I picked up 2 clients in the last 12 months that have dealt with eating disorders. And I enjoy it. I really do enjoy it, because I know what it's like to be in that position. And it's a lot different than what my other client programs look like. There's a lot more mindset discussions that happen around those clients. So yeah, I would say like the main clients are those that are just struggling with the fad dieting. Those that are trying to break up with fad dieting and learn how to fuel themselves properly, learn how to approach their nutrition without having like a restrictive mindset.
Okay. That's very interesting, and I really like how you mentioned how you deal with the clients very differently.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't mind sharing, like one thing that you do with them differently than someone who might not be going through an eating disorder, and how you treat them, and maybe you can give someone something to kind of work on towards. What would that one thing be, if you feel comfortable sharing that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the clients that I have that are dealing with eating disorders, we stay away from my fitness pal because it can become a little bit too obsessive, and it can actually cause them to relapse. So we focus a lot on, what does your plate look like? So when you're putting your plate together, we focus on what a balanced meal looks like. So instead of crunching numbers in my fitness pal, it's, do you have a piece of protein on your plate, a piece of carbohydrate, a piece, or I should say not a piece, but like a serving size of fat, and a serving size of vegetables. The other thing that we focus on, like I would say this is from the very beginning, is just eating more. If you're having one meal a day, can we just start with 2 meals a day? So it's a combination of building a balanced plate, but also making sure that they're eating more than just one meal a day. And I've even had some clients who restrict themselves from certain food types, and I say, can we start introducing one favorite food a week? If you love ice cream and you've been restricting it for this long for, your reasons, like, why don't we try to include that once a week? It's more so trying to build that healthy relationship with food and being okay with eating regularly, because they start to understand that it's healthy for them to eat. Like, restricting their foods is going to make them feel like terrible, right? So that's what we focus on. It's very basic. Whereas my other clients, it's okay, this is your protein target, your calorie target, your fat, your carb target. And we focus on like sugar, fiber intake. It's all about numbers. But with the clients that struggle with eating disorders, it's very basic. And we try to keep it as simple as possible, because we don't want them to relapse into those old bad habits.
Yeah, I love that approach. It's a habit-based approach, and it's something that
Exactly.
depends on the clientele and where they stand in their journey, especially. And I think that approach can just not just be used with somebody who's having an eating disorder, but somebody who's also just beginning. And
Exactly.
I think it can go both ways depending on their experience. So that's some really good, valuable information for people. So thank you for sharing that.
No problem.
My next question, is there any projects that you have coming up right now? Anything that you're working towards? Any ebooks, anything like that that you want to put out there?
For sure. So, as I mentioned before, when you were asking about my story, I used to compete in jump rope. So I focus, like, my business is mostly nutrition coaching. I do a little bit of online training as well. Like, I write online training programs, but the other side of my business, I should say, is double under coaching. So I run clinics at gyms, like CrossFit gyms, because double unders are a big part of CrossFit. It's a skill that is to be worked on. So I go from gym to gym and I teach clinics on how to do the double under. And I'm in the middle of actually putting together a double under program.
Cool.
So that's something that I hope to release by the end of 2020. It's been a project that I've been working on for a while now, but other than that, like, that's, I would say, my only big project for the time being.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, that's so interesting. I've never heard of that yet, like
Yeah.
being made. So that's really cool that, because I can just think of some people that I know that do jump rope and stuff, and I haven't had anyone mention anything like that. So that's really cool and interesting. So it's something unique. Where can we find you? Where, social media wise, website,
Yeah.
email? Where can we find Jaclyn?
So if you guys go onto Instagram, my handle is JS Strength and Conditioning. For my website, it's the same, jsstrengthandconditioning.com. And I use my married name on Facebook. So my last name is Santa Maria, but on Facebook, you'll find me as Jaclyn Maxwell. And email is jaclynSantamaria@gmail.com. But you guys can find all that info on Instagram. If you go in there, you can find most of that information.
Awesome. I will also make sure to put it on the YouTube video and the IGTV video so everyone can as well see that and make sure that they get all the information that they need. And then I'll just make sure that everyone keeps up to date when you do release that program, and let me know when you release that program as well, and I'll share it on my Instagram as well, on my story. So I just want to say thank you so much, Jaclyn, for taking the time to come on this call and this little mini interview today, and I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Jeremy. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. So I just want to say thank you so much, everyone, for listening today. Keep up to date with Jaclyn's account and make sure to go check her out.